I guess I have to be nicer to the Lions. At least that's what the folks on YouTube have to say. All right, some positivity coming up next.
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's happening, everybody? Matt Dery with you. It is Locked On Lions on a Tuesday, November 29th and a Wednesday, November 30th on the Locked On Podcast Network. Indeed, it is your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen and checking us out on our YouTube channel, the Locked On Lions YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter at Dery Speaks, Dery Speaks, at Locked On Lions, and the Matt Dery Facebook fan page. Coming up on the show today, I read through some of the comments on the YouTube page yesterday after I talked about Taylor Decker's SOL and how it's no longer SOL comment. And man, I guess I have to kind of clarify what I was meaning. You guys all think I'm a hater on the Lions. Let me explain where I think this football team is right now and what I was saying about yesterday, because I am positive about the direction. We'll do that coming up. Also, power rankings, the Locked On Podcast Network power rankings. The Lions have moved up in a big way. We'll get into that coming up momentarily. And Pro Bowl voting, some players that you would not expect to be in the top 10 at their position from the Lions are in the Pro Bowl voting. We'll get into that as well coming up momentarily here on the show. But we appreciate you watching, listening, checking us out wherever you do. And of course, those of you checking us out on the Locked On Lions YouTube channel, the video side, hello and welcome into the program. Lions getting the Jacksonville Jaguars coming up Sunday at Ford Field. Two teams kind of on the upswing a little bit. We'll tell you where Jacksonville ranks in the NFL Power Rankings from Locked On coming up momentarily. Thursday, Tony Wiggins, my man T. Wig, who hosts the Locked On Jaguars podcast, will join us for the crossover tomorrow. Austin Gale, ex of PFF, now of The Ringer, is going to join us. We'll get his thoughts on where this Lions team is headed following the Thanksgiving Day loss to the Buffalo Bills. If you missed yesterday's show, and I'm not going to rehash the whole thing, nor am I going to read every comment that came across on the YouTube page. But let me just say this. Yesterday I said what I said, which is Taylor Decker's comments that this isn't the same old effing Lions anymore, which is what Decker said after Thursday's loss. And I questioned it, because you can go back to 2007 when Corey Redding said it's not SOL anymore and the team lost 23 of its next 24 games. We could go back to 2014 when everybody's like, oh, it's time to get rid of same old Lions, and the team imploded and, of course, lost the playoff game. And really wasn't even in the game against the Seahawks. The minute dropped him his prime, Eric Ebron dropped that first quarter pass. I'm not an SOL person. I don't talk about it a lot. I think for my audience and my listeners, I don't think you want me to say that or bring that up. But I don't think all of a sudden, just because you play a close game on Thanksgiving Day against a very good Buffalo team and you nearly win the game, that we need to, all of a sudden just bury it. All right, I want to see how this season plays out. The team should be 5-6. Heck, you can make an argument they should be 6-5. They're 4-7. All right, they're probably better than their record indicates. But now, down the stretch here, as the team has 6 games remaining, Jacksonville at home, Minnesota at home, at the Jets, at Carolina, home to the Bears, and at Green Bay. All right, the Lions need to start winning these games. I'm not saying they need to go 6-0 or 5-1. Heck, if they go 3-3, they will finish with 7 wins, which is what I predicted at the start of the season. I said, I see a 7-10 team. I want to see this team take the next step here. And I like the direction they're headed. I do. So for those of you that were commenting, and I appreciate everybody commenting, and please keep commenting. But I'm not hating. I'm not saying it is SOL. I want to see better. I expected to win last week. I didn't think they would, But once the game was being played, once the game was going on, once the Lions took a lead late in the game, once the Lions had the football down 3 with all of their timeouts left and botched that last series, forcing a very long Michael Badgley field goal. And oh, by the way, leaving 23 seconds on the clock for Josh Allen to march the Bills down the field wasn't good. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it on this show just because I host Locked On Lions. Well, they gave it a great college try. They're right there. Man, Taylor Decker is so right. No more SOL. Oh, they lost. They were there. I didn't like some of the coaching at the end. I didn't like the Goff throw to Chark at the end. Well, if it was a good throw, it would have been a great call. No, it wasn't a good throw. The quarterback didn't deliver. You have to win that game. It was there. And that would have given them 4 in a row and a 5-6 record and going to be 500 this week as they're favored against the Jaguars. That would have been sweet. That's the next step. So many close games in this league. So many of these teams are so even. There's such parity and mediocrity in this league. The Commanders are a playoff team. The Lions beat them. The Giants are a playoff team right now. The season ended today. The Lions beat them. Buffalo, everybody's saying it's Kansas City and Buffalo in the AFC. The Lions were 2 minutes away from beating Buffalo. Minnesota running away with the division. Did the Vikings just wax the Lions earlier in the year? No. Lions botched the end of that game, kicked long field goals with an injured kicker, and lost a tight one that they probably could have won. That's what I'm saying. I'm frustrated that there's not more winning going on. Yes, I know the roster's flawed. Yes, I know Jamison Williams hasn't played a snap, or Romeo Okwara, and they've lost this guy and that guy, and they started Owosika or whatever his name is at guard this week, and Dan Skipper, and they lost Tracy Walker for the year. I get all that. There's injuries all across the league. But in a weak NFC North, where the Packers are ready to fold the tent, where the Bears trade away all their players, and oh, by the way, now have IR'd Eddie Jackson and Justin Fields is hurt. Got to take advantage of that. So I look at this schedule and I go, there's some winnable football games there. Why can't they win 6 or 7 games and finish strong? Jacksonville this week, they're favored. Minnesota next week at home, they won't be favored, but they're at home. What if the Vikings win this week and the Lions lose? The Vikings clinch the division. They're going to come into Detroit on the 11th on a hangover. The Jets are playing Mike White at quarterback. Jets are improved. Lions could win that game. They've already won in that building. They beat the Giants there. Carolina, they're a dumpster fire. The Bears, please. At Green Bay in Week 18 could be Jordan Love and a bunch of rookies if they decide to shut Aaron Rodgers down, if they continue to lose. So, Lions, we should raise the bar a little bit. I'm not saying they're a playoff team this year. But I can be disappointed when they lose a game they should have won last week. And then the players after him, I'm not picking on Taylor Decker, but he's the one that said it. Not SOL anymore. I'm going to reserve judgment on that until I see it. That's all I'm saying. Coming up next, where do the Lions stand in the Locked On Power Rankings? You'll be surprised. I'm pleasantly surprised. But first, Locked On Lions brought to you by Turo, the world's largest car-sharing marketplace. With Turo, you can book any car you want, wherever you want it, from a community of local hosts. Browse a huge selection of vehicles from just about any occasion or budget across the U.S., U.K., Canada, and Australia. Book a spacious SUV or minivan for a family road trip. Hey, get a classic or luxury car for a special event, birthday, or even holiday. Find affordable economy cars on Turo if you're on a budget and just need to get from A to B. Test drive that new electric vehicle you've had your eye on too to see if it fits your everyday life. Many Turo hosts can even deliver the car right to you. Every trip is backed by liability insurance. Terms and conditions and exclusions apply. Forget boring rental cars. Find your drive at Turo, Turo.com. All right, we are back on a Tuesday. Austin Gale tomorrow. T-Wig, my man Tony Wiggins from Locked On Jaguars, coming up on Thursday. on the crossover. All right, the latest Locked On Podcast Network NFL Power Rankings for Week 13 are out. These are voted on by all of the Locked On hosts. There was a time when the Lions were sitting at 1-6 that they were 30th, 29th, near the bottom, behind teams like Houston, Carolina, and others. Right now, your bottom 5 teams in the NFL during with this Week 13 power rankings: Houston at 32, they're terrible. Denver at 31, Bronco country, let's ride. Indy at 30, what a brutal performance last night by Jeff Saturday. The Colts weren't calling timeouts at the end of last night's game. Looked familiar. Carolina at 29, and the Rams at 28. Keep losing, LA. Keep losing. Aaron Donald's now hurt. Cooper Kupp's hurt. Stafford. This is unbelievable. Rams keep losing. Lions could have a top 3 pick in this draft. Your top 5 teams: Kansas City number 1, Philadelphia number 2, Buffalo 3, Niners 4, Dallas 5. Where do the Lions come in? How about 18? They're moving up. Lions at number 18, followed by the Falcons at 19, Jacksonville at 23. So the Lions last week in these power rankings were 19th, have moved up to 18. It helps when you win 3 in a row, and it certainly helps when you knock off a team like the Giants, who are 1 spot ahead of you, despite their 7 wins. And there's just so much parity in the league. We watched the Monday night game last night. I'm sure all of you did. I got home. I was doing the Motor City Cruise game with Chad Bush last night. I got home and watched the second half. I mean, Pittsburgh and Indianapolis are bad. Those are bad teams. But notoriously each year, and one of the reasons why that game was a Monday night football game, Steelers always seem to win on Monday night. They're always in the playoffs. And Indianapolis, many teams picked to win the AFC South. But the Lions being ahead of Atlanta, Cleveland, Green Bay, Arizona, Jacksonville, Pittsburgh, New Orleans, Vegas, the Bears, Rams, Panthers, Colts, Broncos, and Texans tells you something. Nationally, people believe in Detroit. They believe they're coming around. But I'm not going to say the Lions have turned the corner when they continue to lose these close games. Now, did they beat the Bears in a close game? Yes. Did they beat the Packers in a close game? They did. Were they playing a very good Bills team that in the power rankings is number 3? Yes. But a game like Thursday on Thanksgiving Day just highlights again that they've not turned the corner yet. But these next few weeks, they're going to be playing teams that they can certainly beat. And that's where I want to see progress. That's where you want to see them with the kill shot. Go on a run. Not necessarily a playoff team per se, but when the Giants and Commanders, right now, if the season ended today, would be wild card teams. And the Lions beat both those teams. They're not that far away. But I want to see them close the deal. I want to see Dan Campbell. I want to rave about Dan Campbell after a game and say, what a decision he made. Great clock management. Boy, he outcoached blah, blah, blah. That's what I want to say in one of these games. He did outcoach Brian Daboll when the Lions played the Giants, and the Lions were just so physical that day. But Thursday, again, timeouts in your back pocket, not using them, 3rd and 1. St. Brown's been open all day. Goff misses, whether it was Goff's fault, the coach's fault, but Goff misses Chark on the deep ball. You have to settle for 3. And then your defense gives up one long pass, and boom, Josh Allen leads them right into Tyler Bass's range, and the game was over. You're playing the Jaguars this week. Jacksonville is feeling themselves right now after knocking off the Ravens last week. The return of Marvin Jones Jr. and Jamal and Riley Patterson and guys like that. You know what? It's still Jacksonville, though. You know, that is Trevor Lawrence the second coming yet? I'm still waiting on that. Getting better, sure. But there's a reason the Lions are favored. You can absolutely win that football game. So that's what I'm looking for. None of these teams are remain. I mean, Minnesota's really good, all right? They're really good. They have 9 wins. But in the power rankings, the Vikings are seventh. They're behind Miami, who, oh, by the way, the Lions were right there with when they played them. Dallas. Did Dallas blow the Lions out? Not till late in that game. Buffalo, they blow the Lions out. They're third. No. Philly, number 2. Blew them out early. Lions only lost by 3 in that game. These teams are all jumbled together, is my point. So that's where I'm at right now. Locked On Lions is brought to you by our friends at Audible. Audible is releasing a slate of new football podcasts that we're sure you're going to love. Find Block Forever now, wherever you get your podcasts. Block Forever, brand new pod from former NFL All-Pro Ryan Khalil and Audible. Khalil takes a conversation about football to the next level. He gives football fans an insider's look at the game through the eyes of the greatest players and personalities of all time, such as guys like Christian McCaffrey, Juju Smith-Schuster. New episodes of Block Forever will be recorded and released every week ahead of the Thursday Night Football game. Ryan and guests discuss topics like the player's psyches, sports betting, playing through pain, being a leader, and how to deal with combative teammates. Here, nothing is out of bounds on this show. Available for free on Audible or wherever you get your podcasts. Catch the full Block Forever series, available anywhere that you get your podcasts, available everywhere now. Audible, get in the game. Hope everybody's having a great Tuesday. I saw this article in the Free Press, Dave Burkett wrote about Pro Bowl voting. And off the top of your head, if you're a Lions fan, you're like, who's going to the Pro Bowl? Well, first of all, the Pro Bowl's not even a game anymore. It's like flag football in Vegas and a bunch of skills competitions. But to be named to the Pro Bowl means that you are a really good football player. And the past few years, the Lions have had some Pro Bowlers, Jonah Jackson last year, Frank Ragnow, others, Dery Slay used to make it every year, etc. This year, all right, as you look 11 games in, who jumps off the page on the Lions as a Pro Bowl player? The one guy that comes to mind for me is Frank Ragnow. I just think he's one of the best centers in the league, solid, plays through pain, has had a toe problem. Who else on this team? I don't know if there's anybody on the defense that I would say is a Pro Bowl player. I would say Penei Sewell, you can make an argument for. Amon-Ra St. Brown's really good, but there's a lot of really good wide receivers. You can only take so many. Justin Jefferson comes to mind as a guy that in the NFC. That guy just is Pro Bowl caliber right out of the chute. A.J. Brown is so good. Debo, C.D. Lamb, guys like that just, are so good and are likely Pro Bowl type players. DK Metcalf, guys like that. But I think Amon-Ra is really good. But Burkett wrote in the Free Press today, breaking it down, there are currently 6 Lions in the top 10 in Pro Bowl voting at their spots. Frank Ragnow is 4th among centers, and he's 4th in the NFL with center grades from PFF at 78.1. Aiden Hutchinson is 6th among defensive ends. His edge grade for PFF is right around 70, which is 45th among pass rushers. Deshaun Elliott, 7th among strong safeties. Kirby Joseph, 8th for free safeties. He's played very well. And only Kyle Hamilton and Jaquan Brisker are better as far as rookies go from PFF. Penei Sewell, 10th amongst tackles in PFF grade. He's 9th in the Pro Bowl voting amongst tackles. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown is 10th in voting for wide receivers. 3rd in PFF grade at 89.8 for wideouts, only behind Stephon Diggs and Tyreek Hill. How about that? That is some pretty good company for ARSB. But Pro Bowl voting goes on until December 15th. And then starting on December 1st, this is from Pride of Detroit, you can vote for the Pro Bowl via Twitter by tweeting the first and last name of a player along with the hashtag Pro Bowl vote. Fans get to vote, players vote, and coaches vote. They split it up into thirds. I would say that Sewell and Ragnow and maybe Amon-Ra are your best chances for Pro Bowl players this season. Those guys are studs. They are clearly the best players on the team, and those are the guys that you're building around, especially on offense. I'm sorry, the Lions' defense is still not good. There are some guys coming. Hutchinson's playing well. Kirby Joseph's been pretty good. No question about it. Malcolm Rodriguez had a nice year. Jeff Okudah, nice year. Could you make an argument for him as a Pro Bowler? He's had some really good games. I'm not so sure, though, that he's as good as Darius Slay and some others that play the cornerback position in the NFC. Patrick Peterson's had a really good year, etc. But the Lions have some good young players. But yeah, if you ended the season right now, Ragnow, Sewell, Amon-Ra probably would get consideration. Not sure if any of the other guys, maybe even Jonah Jackson to an extent. I'd have to look at his PFF numbers, but that's where it's at. But what's good about it is, and again, positive conversation happening here for the Lions, we're even having this discussion about players. That's a good thing. How many years did we go where we knew the Lions weren't going to get anybody? Or it was just Barry and no one else. Just Calvin and no one else. Just Slay and no one else. We've been through that. Just Sue and nobody else. All right, Austin Gale is going to join us from The Ringer tomorrow right here on Locked On Lions. Folks, have a great Tuesday night into Wednesday. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.